Let's review something that we have learned last session. And this is variable declaration, right? And this is variable assignment and printf line function call. So we are gonna draw two ellipses at the same point with different size. If you run this code, you can see this result, right? And on the console, the number 10 was printed out here, right? And the canvas size is 400, 400. This is so simple, but let's think about this. If you run this program, what will happen? It runs, right? It runs from top to bottom, line by line. So this line, variable declaration runs, and variable assignment run, and print line function will be run, right? So this is so simple. This program mode is called in processing static programming mode. Here the static means it doesn't change, right? So after running all the code, the canvas will be shown like this. It doesn't change. So it just runs only one time. This is called static programming mode. There is another program mode here too. Let's see. This program is called dynamic program mode, which means the dynamic word means the game or the program runs dynamically, right? So if you run this code, the ellipse is drawn, and if you move the mouse, the ellipse was drawn at the right point, at the right mouse point, right? So in running this program, the canvas shape, the canvas is changing, right? This is called dynamic program mode. In a summary, in processing language, there are two programming modes. The first one is static program mode, and the second one is dynamic program mode. If you want to make some kind of games using processing language, you have to use dynamic program mode because the game status will change every time, every second, every minute, right? So we are gonna use dynamic program mode from now on. Okay, if you wanna use dynamic program mode, you have to use two functions. So let me tell you this: void setup and void draw. Actually, this setup and draw function was empty. You have to fill the body. And first of all, let's look at what is the function. What is a function? You already used print function in processing, right? And if you write this kind of statement in processing, this hello world string will be transferred to the print function, and the print function will print out this thing, these parameters, right? And who made this print function? Let's see. So this is Wikipedia for the processing language. So Kes Lias and Ben Fry, these two men made this language, right? They already made the print function, so you can use it. Somebody made that, right? You can use it. And the thing is, in dynamic program mode, the setup function and draw function was made already, but it is empty. So you have to write something in setup function and draw function too. So let's do it. Size 400. Let's draw ellipse, mouse X, mouse Y, 100. This red thing is variable, but it is already declared by the processing language. This two variable is called system variable, right? And mouse X and mouse Y hold the X and Y point of the mouse. So this is it. And if you make setup function and draw function, if you run this program, what will happen? First of all, the setup function will be run only one time. That's important. The setup function will be run first of all at one time. And then after finishing the setup function, the draw function will run. How many times? It will run forever until you quit, you stop the program. That's the thing you have to memorize. So in setup function, the canvas will be open, right? And setup function ends, and then draw function will run forever. So if you move the mouse, you can draw the ellipse at the mouse point, 100 and 100 diameter. So if you run this code, see 400, 400, right? And the ellipse will be drawn here, right? That's the dynamic program mode. So if you want to make the breakout game, you have to use dynamic program mode. And let's look at one more thing. So if you delete all this statement, so if you want to use some kind of variable, you can declare the variable at the top. So let's say int I. And if you want to assign some kind of variable here, it does not permit it. So you can see the red underline, right? Errors on something. What it means? There's no error right here. Because in processing language, you cannot mix static and dynamic program mode in one program. So this is static mode, right? And this is dynamic mode. You cannot mix that. But the only thing is you can declare the variable here, but you have to assign the variable in a setup function or drop function. Let's do it. And I equal number 1 and print. Let's use print line. This is setup function. Oh my god. And let's print out variable I. And then in a draw function, you can change the variable into 2 and print line. This is the draw function. And let's print out I. So let's see what will happen if you run this code. As I told you, the setup function will run only one time, right? After that, draw function will run forever. So let's run it. Oh, let's see. Let's go to the top, right? And this was print out. Who print this one? The setup function print this one, right? If you run this code, the program begins from top to bottom, right? So the integer variable will be declared here, and then setup function will run. The size function will run, so the canvas will open, and variable I will be initialized into number 1, and this print line function will run, right? And so this one is the result of this print line function. So I is number 1 here, and then the drop function will run, right? So in drop function, I is assigned number 2, and this print line function print this message and I value. I is number 2. Here, this is the drop function, right? As I told you, drop function will run forever, right? So this is run forever until you stop the program. And after print this line, let's increment I plus 1. So with this statement, I will be number 3 because I was number 2. 2 plus 1 is number 3. Is assigned to variable, right? So I will be number 3. So I is increment. I increment. So if you run this code, sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. The I is assigned number 2 forever. So we need to declare this one, right? And then let's run it. So I is incremented by number 1. So this is dynamic program mode. Because the reason why I told you this one, you have to move the ball, right? So that's why we need to use the dynamic program mode. From now on, let's start to make the breakout game. So first of all, we need to use dynamic program mode, right? So we have to use void setup and void draw 2. I didn't tell you what the function is, how to use the function, but you have to remember the shape of function. The shape, the setup function starts with void keyword and setup and parenthesis and curly bracket. I'll tell you later how to make your own function too later. So until that time, you need to remember the overall shape of the function. So draw function will start void keyword and draw and parenthesis and curly bracket. So you have to remember this shape. And if you want to move the breakout game, you need to open the canvas, right? So let's make the canvas 600, 400, this wide canvas. Because setup function will run only one time, this size function has to declare in setup function before running the other calls. So this is the standard structure shape of the setup function. And then we are gonna move the ball, right? So we are gonna draw the ball using ellipse function. And if you do like this, the ball doesn't move, right? Because this ellipse will be drawn at the 100, 100. So if you run this code, the ball was drawn right here, and it doesn't move. If you want to move the ball, what it means? The ellipse x and y portion has to change, right? Which means we need to variable for the center of the ellipse. Let's say, so you have to declare the variable for the center of the ellipse. So let's say int x and y. If you can declare the variable like this, int x and int y. But if you want to declare it's just one line, you can write like this. So this is y variable, this is x variable. And after declaration of variable, keep in mind you have to initialize that in a setup function. So x equals 0, which means the ball will start from the left top corner, because we are going to use the x and y for the ellipse x and y, x position and y position. Actually, this is same as the previous one. So if you run this code, nothing changed, right? So ellipse was drawn here. So if you move the ball, you have to change this variable. Let's say after drawing that, x equal x plus 1. So after finishing the setup function, the draw function will run, right? After drawing one time, x will increment number 1, and then draw increment, right? That's how the draw function run. So if you run this code, the ball moves, right? Okay, let's change the y position. Let's say y is 100, so the ball is too big, so let's just use 50 for the diameter, x and y, and let's rerun it. Yeah, the ball moves, right? But the thing is, the previous circle is still there, right? Overwritten. So you have to clear the background. For this, you have to use background function. So this background will clear the background with this color. Let's see, as I told you, 0 is black, 255 is white, right? So let's say 200. Finally, the ball moves. But the thing is, the ball was gone through the right border. So you have to check the ball touch the border, right? If you touch the border, it has to bounce in opposite direction. That's what we will do next section. Okay, bye.